Okay, so we'll pick up from where we left off, and then we're done with discrimination, okay, at the workplace. Next, we're going to go back to what? The UCC, chapter 14, I think, or 14. The UCC and Article 2 and Article 9. Chapter 14. So Article 2 governs what? Article 2 of the UCC governs the sale of goods. Goods are what? Movable and tangible. At the time of contract. Cool. Okay, and a contract for the sales of goods over $500 must be in writing. Okay? If we have a mixed contract and we use the predominant rule, what is this contract about? What's the predominant factor? It could be the money factor, or it could be the purpose of this contract. Okay? Formation, like in common law contract in UCC, the formation includes what? Offer, acceptance, consideration. After we have all those three things, we have a what? An enforceable contract. Okay? In UCC, we have perfect tender. That means whatever you order, you must receive the same exact. Anything that's not exactly the same that they send you, they have to send you an accommodation note saying that this is not what you ordered, but I have this to accommodate you. If you don't want it, you can return it. But if you want it, you can keep it. Okay? If they don't send that accommodation note, the seller does not send you the accommodation note, but sends you something different, then you can sue for breach, because that's a breach of the contract. All right? Or they send you something with additional terms or different terms. They're still a contract. Those terms can be accepted or rejected. It can be part of the contract or not. If you are merchants, if both of you are merchants, you deal with the goods, the sale of the goods on a regular basis, merchants. So those additional terms can be kept as part of the contract or rejected, but you still have a contract. In common law contract, in the mirror image rule, if the acceptance has different terms, what is that acceptance has become? A counter offer or a rejection of the offer. There's no contract. Okay? And then remedies. There are different remedies in the contract. Damages. Okay? Money. Expectation damage. To treat this whole arrangement as if the contract actually took place. Okay? So the plaintiff will receive damage as if the contract has taken place because the defendant breached. Reliance damages is the damage as if the contract never took place, to put both parties before the contract. Okay? Consequential, any foreseeable damages that flows from the contract. Incidental are smaller things like storage fees and all that stuff. There are different warranties in contract. I talked about warranties. Express warranty. This car is 10 years old. Express. This car is brand new. Okay, implied warranty of marketability. If you buy a car, it better drive. Okay? If you buy a pen, it better write. It does what it's supposed to do. Warranty of marketability. Okay, implied warranty of fitness for a particular purpose. Implied warranty of fitness for a particular purpose is when you tell the seller that you buy that object for that purpose, and he guarantees that yes, it will. You can do that with that. And if you can't do, if the good you buy does not perform to that specific purpose, they've breached the warranty. Okay? For example, you want to buy a lawnmower. You say that I have really thick grass. You buy a lawnmower that's high capacity that can cut my thick grass. And then they sell you a lawnmower that doesn't do anything. Okay? You can't cut any grass. You can cut thin grass, but you can't cut thick grass with it. Then you can bring it back and say it doesn't fit the particular purpose that I bought this thing for, that you guaranteed. Okay, a seller can disclaim the guarantees. And you can waive the guarantees if they sell something to you as is. That's the disclaimer. You buy this thing as is. So if it has any defects, I guarantee you, I don't have any guarantee. Okay? No express, no guarantee, implied guarantee of marketability, no implied guarantee fitness for a particular purpose. As is. It's a disclaimer that disclaims all guarantees. But try to fight in court, because even if you say as if, people expect some kind of guarantee too. Right? You can't sell people junk. Okay, that's Article 2. Article 9. What's Article 9? It governs what? Over what kind of transactions? Secured transactions. What are secured transactions? Example. Huh? Debtor, collector. Huh? Buying your what? Do you pay your car? You pay for your car cash, or you have to be on finance, right? So, what is your car called? Collateral. Collateral, not a collision. It can be a collision. Collateral, right? Because whoever lends you the money to buy that car can take that car from you if you default on your payments. The person who lends you the money is called the what? The creditor. You are called the what? Debtor. Okay? And the car is the collateral. They can take it. Your house is a collateral when the lender lends you money to pay for the mortgage of the house, right? So if you're almost done with the house, you pay. If the house is worth $200,000, you already paid $150,000, and you default on the rest of the stuff, they take your house. Sad, isn't it? So the house and the car are collaterals. Debtor and
all the payments they still keep.
Yeah.
And then they take the house.
Yes. Isn't that sweet?
It's sweet for the person.
You want to be the creditor. Anyway, okay, so there must be an agreement. If there's no agreement signed, nothing, then it's not enforceable. They can't take your car if there's no agreement. Right? Okay. The first thing is called an attachment. What is an attachment? You attach what to a security interest?
Right.
You're right. Who's right? The what? The creditor's right. The creditor's right. It's attached to the collateral of the debtor. Okay? So two parties have a security agreement. Okay? So that's between, this kind of an agreement called the attachment is between who and who? The creditor and the debtor. So if the debtor defaults, the creditor can go in and take the collateral. Okay, that's between those two. Does the world know about it? No. If the debtor sells the car to a third party, Okay? Can the creditor go after the third party without doing more?
He has these degrees of perfection.
If he only has an attachment, can he go after the third party
No.
to repossess the car? No, never. Unless he what?
Perfect.
Perfects title. He has to perfect it by letting the
Whoa.
world know.
Yes.
Okay? So you have to give notice. You have to give notice. How do you give notice to the world? To file some paperwork. Right? When you file the paperwork, okay, you can file it. Okay? So who do you file with? With the state? With the government? Okay? So you have to file it with the state. Okay? You have to let people know. Because when you filed this, you file for, when you try to perfect, you file the paperwork, then whoever buys this car can look up and see if there's any lien against it, if there's any mortgage left, if there's any finance payments left. Or if you buy a house, you can look up and see how much is owed still on that house. Okay? So you have to do that. So what is the default again? When the debtor doesn't pay, he defaults on the charges, on the finance, and on the payments. Okay? Default. All right? And we're basically done with that. Isn't that wonderful? And then the last thing, how are we going to deal with the world? International law affecting business. Chapter 9. We end this class in a good note that we will venture outside of the United States. And agreements between different countries are called what?
Treaties.
Treaties. You guys are amazing. It took me like a few years in law school to figure that one out. Okay, treaties, okay? I should have figured it out in the first semester, but somehow I slacked off or something. Something happened. So there are different treaties or different agreements. Okay, there are big agreements and small agreements, right? There are agreements that affect like 50, 100 countries. The Paris Agreement on climate conventions, that affects like hundreds of countries that sign up, that you are a member of it, right? There is this thing called the GATT, General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade. Very important for business, right? Because you have to know how much you're being taxed when you sell stuff to another country to see if you can make a profit or not, right? Because if you price it too high and the taxes make it too expensive, you might not be able to sell your product in a different country, right? But if you price it too low, you might not make a good profit. You might lose money, right? Very important to know the rules in such agreements and to come up with some kind of an agreement that people are happy with. And you know that different systems of law affect different parts of this world. In the US, in Canada, in England, in Australia, what kind of law is there, Con?
Common law.
Common law. Civil law is something different. Civil law is similar to what kind of law? Statutory law, written code, and they are popular in 70% of the world's population and in a lot of countries. Like in Europe, almost all of Asia, and some African countries, and South America. Civil law. 70% of the world's population is affected by civil law. Similar to statutory law, it's based on Roman law. Code, okay? And then we have Islamic law in a few Asian countries and the Middle East. And then we have a lot of countries territories that have mixed laws. Okay? And be familiar with the General Agreement on Tariff and Trade, because that affects business tremendously. You can't discriminate against different countries on your taxes and tariffs if you sign up for these things, if you're a member of it, okay? And the United Nations Convention on Contracts for the International Sale of Goods, important. 246, it regulates, it's like the UCC, but internationally. Similar stuff. There are customs and general principles of law. They're customary international law. They're not real laws, but because people have been doing these things year in, year out for like many hundreds of thousands of years, it has become law, customary law. Okay, and then we have the New York Convention, widely accepted treaty on the court enforcement of arbitral awards. Arbitration, a binding process, arbitration. You don't go to a regular court, you go to arbitration when you have a neutral party will decide the case and it's binding. And there is such thing as an international court, right? On page 235, we have the International Court of Justice. We have a judge. And we know the United Nations. What's the purpose of the United Nations? Maintain peace. Can we all get along here? And its headquarters in what state? New York. The United Nations. Okay? And the World Trade Organization is one very important organization that arises out of World Trade, WTO? Yes. Okay? And the United Nations has related organizations like the International Labor Organization or World Health Organization, WHO. A lot of acronyms. Okay? And different countries, different sovereign countries are usually called states. Sovereign countries are called states, but they're not like real states, like the United States. But they're called states. So how we have agreements. The United States has been in a bunch of agreements or treaties with other countries in terms of buying and selling and business deals. And certain deals are governed by certain laws. It depends on what we agree on. Sometimes we agree on German law or American laws. Okay? Usually when a foreign business does business in the U.S., they have to abide by certain U.S. laws also. Okay? And treaties and agreements that we have with each other. Because without an agreement or without the law, it's hard to trust other people. And what if someone does something wrong or irresponsible? How are we going to come up with some kind of a remedy or a way to resolve the disputes or the problems? Okay? So we don't just deal with people in the U.S., we deal with people around the world. And it's very important to follow certain rule or certain law. Okay? For us to all function well. Okay? That's it. Any other questions you have on anything? We've covered the majority of this book. It's a thick book. And we've managed to do a lot. Any questions on assignment 2? Oh, let me show you something. This kind of summarizes what we're doing here. So if you ever get stuck on your exam, then think of this video, and it might give you some kind of a hint. Business law. This is a little summary of business law.
Business law encompasses all of the laws that dictate how to form and run a business. This includes all of the laws that govern how to start, buy, manage, and close or sell